Libya before Gaddafi, 1960s, a struggling nation. Before Muammar Gaddafi took power in 1969, Libya was one of the poorest nations on earth. Despite sitting on vast oil reserves, most of the wealth was controlled by the monarchy and foreign companies. The majority of Libyans lived in slums or tents, struggling to afford basic needs. Only 25% of the population could read and write, and most children never attended school. Healthcare was scarce, and electricity was a luxury for the rich. In the countryside, people relied on donkeys for transport, and roads were nothing but dirt paths. Libya had the highest infant mortality rate in North Africa, and life expectancy barely reached 50 years. The country desperately needed change. Then, a young military officer seized power in a bloodless coup, promising to rebuild Libya into a nation of wealth and opportunity. His name? Muammar Gaddafi. Gaddafi wasted no time shaking up Libya. He nationalized the oil industry, ensuring that its profits stayed in the country instead of going to Western corporations. With a flood of new wealth, his government launched a series of massive social reforms. Schools and universities were built across Libya, and education became 100% free from primary school to university. The country's literacy rate skyrocketed from 25% to over 80% within decades. Hospitals and clinics opened nationwide, providing free health care to all citizens. Life expectancy soared from 51 to over 74 years, one of the highest in Africa. Gaddafi even abolished rent, declaring that houses belong to the people. He introduced interest-free loans for buying homes, cars, or starting businesses. For the average Libyan, life had never been better. But there was a price to pay for this golden age. Imagine a country where healthcare is free for everyone. That was Libya under Gaddafi. From surgery to medication, citizens didn't have to pay a single dinar. If a Libyan needed a complex medical procedure that wasn't available locally, the government paid for their treatment abroad, covering flights, hotel stays, and hospital bills. Education was just as generous. Schools were fully funded, and students who wanted to study overseas were given government scholarships, including living expenses, engineering, medicine, law, whatever they wanted to pursue. Libya made it happen. The result? A nation filled with skilled doctors, scientists, and engineers. Many say Libya was the richest welfare state in Africa, where oil wealth fueled social progress. But not. Everything was perfect. Dissent was not tolerated, and speaking against Gaddafi could mean exile, prison, or worse. One of Gaddafi's greatest achievements was the Great Man-Made River, a massive water project designed to bring fresh water to Libya's cities and farms. The country's biggest problem wasn't oil, it was water. Libya is 90% desert, and before this project, most of its drinking water was imported at high costs. So Gaddafi built the largest irrigation system in human history, pumping billions of gallons of water from underground aquifers deep in the Sahara. This project turned the desert green, supplying water to cities, homes, and farmlands. It was called the eighth wonder of the world. But while Gaddafi built a self-sufficient nation, cracks were forming. His rule was absolute, and anyone who opposed him disappeared without a trace. Internationally, he was accused of funding terrorist organizations, and Western powers started viewing him as a threat. Then, in 2011, his world came crashing down. While Gaddafi provided free services, Libya was not a democracy. He ruled with absolute power, banning political parties and shutting down any opposition. There were no elections, no free press, and no freedom of speech. Secret police monitored conversations, and those who criticized the government often disappeared overnight. Some were executed in public to send a message. Internationally, Gaddafi was accused of funding terrorism, including the Lockerbie bombing of 1988, which killed 270 people. The United Nations imposed crippling sanctions on Libya, making it harder for citizens to access foreign goods. While many Libyans still enjoyed the benefits of free healthcare, education, and cheap fuel, tensions were rising. In 2011, as the Arab Spring protests swept across the Middle East, Libyans took to the streets. Gaddafi refused to step down, and the country erupted into civil war. In early 2011, the Arab Spring swept across North Africa, and Libya was no exception. Thousands took to the streets, demanding freedom, jobs, and democracy. But Gaddafi refused to step down. Instead, he ordered a brutal crackdown, calling protesters rats and vowing to crush them. His forces launched attacks, but soon, rebel fighters organized and seized control of several cities. The international community intervened, and in March, NATO launched airstrikes, crippling Gaddafi's military. As Tripoli fell to the rebels, Gaddafi fled to his hometown of Sirte. For weeks, he hid, but on October 20th, 2011, his convoy was bombed by NATO jets. Dragged from a drain pipe by rebels, the once mighty leader was beaten, shot, and killed. Libya celebrated his death, but little did they know, their nightmare was just beginning. The country would never be the same again. After Gaddafi's fall, Libya descended into chaos. With no strong leader, militias and warlords fought for power, turning the nation into a battlefield. The once booming oil industry collapsed, and with it, the country's wealth. Healthcare and education, once free for all, were now non-existent. Hospitals lacked doctors and medicine, and schools shut down. The great man-made river, once a symbol of prosperity, fell into disrepair, leaving millions without clean water. Meanwhile, Libya became a hub for human trafficking, with migrants sold as slaves in open markets. Terrorist groups like ISIS moved in, spreading even more violence. The streets of Tripoli, once lined with modern buildings, were now filled with rubble and gunfire. People who once had free homes, free hospitals, and free education were now struggling to survive. Many began asking the forbidden question, was Libya better off under Gaddafi? SC. Gaddafi was a dictator, but under his rule, Libyans had security, prosperity, and social benefits unmatched in much of Africa. Today, Libya is a failed state, overrun by warlords, terrorists, and foreign interests. Instead of democracy, Libyans got lawlessness, famine, and violence. Gas prices skyrocketed, power outages became normal, and kidnappings for ransom replaced government salaries. Even those who once celebrated Gaddafi's fall now question whether the revolution was a victory or a curse. Did Libya trade a stable dictatorship for endless suffering, or was this simply the cost of freedom? One thing is certain, the Libya of the past is gone, and its future remains uncertain. What do you think? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more eye-opening history.